Hey guys, welcome back to the Dream Motorsports YouTube channel. Tonight we're going to start a project and a tool that I've needed for quite a while. However, with the amount of engine work and building and putting together new engines this off season that we're doing, we really need one. So we're going to get started on it, and that is a run stand. So we're going to build a run stand, which is pretty much just an engine stand that encompasses everything an engine needs to run. It's kind of a wiring harness, a radiator, a battery, a fuel tank, obviously a really small fuel tank, but a fuel tank, and an ignition system, just enough to start and run an engine so we can do a little bit of testing. Let's say you buy a used engine and you want to test it before you put it in a car, or you're done putting together a rebuild engine from the machine shop and you just want to break in or test it before you put it back in the car. Any number of things. Heck, we could take a person off the street brings me an LS engine that they picked up off, Facebook Marketplace for $300. Says, hey, I want to see if this works before I go ahead and do anything else with it. For a fee, we'll put it on the run stand, make sure that it works, and they can, be happy or sad with whatever purchase it is that they made. But we're going to take this stack of materials here, or the majority of this is what we're going to use. We've got a few other things that we'll have, and go ahead and put together the base of it, and yeah, I'll show you with it what we're going to do with it. So let's break down the details. All right, so I've kind of put together a little bit of a, just basic drawing. Our 1.5-inch tube here, that's going to be our base. So I've got it currently, I think we're going to do 5 or 6 feet here. I haven't decided. I've got a few other things that I want to have to put up here. And I think we're going to put the fuel tank and other things that we need up here with the radiator and with our little gauges as well. I don't really want anything back here because we're going to run, some headers, and we're going to have an exhaust and such back here, so it's not super, super loud. But anyways, that's going to be our base. And then we'll weld some tabs on here. We'll then weld like a T-bar together. So the engine mounts on each side of the engine will line up here and here. This is obviously going to be a little bit straighter with a rudimentary drawing. And then back here we'll have one stand up in the center, so the exhaust misses everything back here, no matter what kind of exhaust or how big of mufflers we put on it. Then we'll have a bar across here that kind of looks like a an engine stand piece, and then from there it will then mount to a bell housing. And a lot of people don't necessarily use a bell housing on the back of their engines while going ahead and doing a run stand. However, I do want to cover up the moving flex plate or flywheel or whatever it is that we end up putting on the back to start the engine. I kind of want to keep that covered, just a little bit of safety and such. There's going to be wires and such in here, and we're probably going to be looking around looking for leaks and such. So I don't want that to just be hanging out. So we're going to put a bell housing on it, and this piece right down here is going to be this piece. So what this will do is it will slide over the end of this tube here before we weld it all together, and that is going to make our engine mounts here slightly universal, just in case we do so much LS work, but just in case somebody's got something else that they want to test out and they can bring me all the things they need to make it run, do that. For the most part, this is just going to be stationary. Once we find the right spot, we're going to stick it there and leave it there, but it will be universal just in case we end up doing something else. And then this just simply going to be a little gauge pod stand. It'll have our starter, a few gauges to make sure coolant temp, oil pressure, battery, all that such is the way it needs to be. And then up in this area, we'll mount the fuel tank, and we'll mount the radiator right down in here. And yeah, this will most likely be removable in case we want to do some switch up and let's say change heads or intake, or even down to the cam. The cam comes out the front of the LS, so if we need to pull this off, that'll come off nice and easy. But we'll make this removable, and that will kind of fold most of these things up in just a small area in case we're not using it. And then in each corner, it will go ahead and have just a big base of a wheel in each corner. That way, this is tall enough, and I've measured my just engine hoist, and it is 6.5 roughly to 6.75 inches tall. And so what we'll do then is make this measurement probably 7 to 7.5 inches tall, just so we've got plenty of room for it to slide underneath. And that would just make it simpler for us to get the engine on and off of the run stand. You know, if it's tall enough for the engine hoist legs to fit underneath, makes it super easy. So let's go ahead. We're going to have our center pieces 36 inches side to side, and then we're going to leave this two sides here at 6 feet for right now. However, I think we may end up maybe cutting it down. It depends. But for now, I want to have this extra room just in case we need it to mount, you know, all of our stuff that we've got sitting up here, battery and our fuel tank. So let's go ahead, get to cutting some stuff up, getting to putting some pieces together and welding them up. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get a couple of initial pieces cut here. We've got two pieces that we're going to have at 3 feet long. This is going to be our front and back end. And this second piece here, this is going to be the front legs slide support, I guess you could call them. Okay, so there's all of those done. I ended up making these 6 feet or 6 inches long, and that's going to give me plenty of area in here to weld a nice solid base. And we're going to go ahead and put a couple of bolts in the sides, and that will give it a nice wide base. That way we can tighten it down when we get to the area that we want to be at. So let's get back over to the welding table. We'll go ahead and clean these up. Okay, guys, so we're back over here at the welding table. We're going to go ahead, get our front and rear cleaned up, and then we'll go ahead and clean up the two of our other ones. This will be for our back piece here in a little while. We're going to go ahead and get these two set up and kind of figure out where we want it to be. Then I'm going to go get one of our engines, kind of base it off and place, see where we're going to be at. So let's go ahead and clean this up. Okay, guys, there we have it. We've got our first 6 pieces that we're going to use. Let's go ahead and get these kind of other things out of the way here, and we'll go ahead and start getting our stuff mocked up to tack up this side. So, here we go. And we're going to grab our fireball tools, square. So what this will do is, with these tabs on the corners and such, we will be able to keep our metal square when we're welding it up. So, let's start going. And I have ground down our sides so that we will have 1 and 1 when we're doing this. And this will sit like so. And the reason we're doing it this way, where these tubes are exposed here on the end, is that's going to let us slide in and out of here if we need to have something. And at this point, I could tell 6 feet long, maybe quite long. However, I wanted to have the extra room to play just to begin with, and you know, if we need to do more or less later, we could. Anyways, let's start by getting ourselves set up to do a square. So since these tubes are long, we're able to use our long edges of our tool here. Okay, so grab clamps, just start getting ourselves set up in the right area. Master welder, and so what we've done is we've got a clamp here, a clamp here, and that's making our edge. And even though our cuts aren't perfect, we are perfectly square. Awesome. Let's go ahead and weld that one up. All right, so got the welder over here. Got it set up. Get my earmuffs off, and we'll go ahead and switch over to the welding helmet. We will. We've got that a little bit off the table, so I'm going to go directly to that. And what we're going to do to begin with is we're just going to go ahead and tack each corner into place. A little bit big tack, but we're going to tack it that way in case something moves or shifts while we're doing this. We can go ahead and change it. I'd love to have 4 of these Fireball tools. This is the big aluminum one, and it's real nice, but they're like $150 a piece. And while I would love to go ahead and square this up and do it all at one shot, it will work just as well as long as we're good and careful, one corner at a time. So let's go ahead. Okay, that's one side welded up. Well, tacked up. So we're going to go ahead and repeat that for this side, and then we'll do a little bit of measurement before we go ahead and weld in our last one. We'll go ahead and measure where we want to be. Let's get this other one done. We're going to kind of fast forward through that. All right, guys, so that is the first U shape done. As you saw me maybe in the fast forward there, roll one of the busted up engines that we have to fix right now in. I had a moment of, oh crap, did I get too overzealous and it make it way too wide in my head, right? But I think, wow, yes, it is really wide. It is wide, 36 inches in the center makes it, 49 inches at the side if it's 1.5 inch tubing here. However, I do want to have it 7 inches off the ground on, rolling wheels. So that way we can move it around. And I want to have the engine fairly tall so we can actually work on it and we're not really hunched over trying to work on it, kind of like an engine stand. I want it to be that tall. So ultimately I left it. And now I'm going to go ahead and kind of do a little bit of fast forward, kind of configure where we need to be at. And I'm going to go ahead and grab our sleeves here. We're going to go ahead and just find and slide them in. That way I don't forget later on. So, even though there's a couple of things that I need to put holes in and weld in here, if I get a little bit ahead of myself and weld in this crossbar, I won't have to cut it back apart, at least. It might make drilling these holes a little bit worse if I forget about it, but I won't have to cut it back apart. So let's go ahead. I'm going to set it down on the ground and kind of roll in, do a couple of things. I'm just going to let fast forward through that, and then I'll talk about the decisions I make after that. All right, guys, so let me kind of go through my plans here a little bit with you. We're going to leave this. This is currently 6 feet long. We're going to leave it at roughly, I don't know, just short, or just longer than 5 feet. So I'm going to take about 10 inches off of here. This bar is just here, so I can kind of get an idea as to where the radiator and such is going to be. I know it's a bit of a space in between here, but we still don't have all the accessories and such on the front of this engine that we're going to run, so that'll probably come out to about here. And if we're testing any, front-mounted turbos or anything, that will still give us plenty of room in between the radiator, because radiator will still be, out to about here, and then fans and such. So that gives us plenty of room. It'll be a little bit bigger footprint, probably the most run stands, but I think it will give us plenty of room to have, a really good base in here, and then, plenty of room for exhaust and such in case we do decide to move it a little bit farther forward. We still have ease of doing that. So I'm going to get our 10 inches cut off of each side there, weld this crossbar tube on. I'm going to go ahead and slide our inserts back on. I did go ahead and put and weld the nuts and bolts on there, and that's just going to be so when we tighten these up, it will stop it in place. When we have the motor mount such in here, we'll get that base done up, and we'll start building off it. Let's do that. All right, guys, so we got the second, piece put in for the width. We got the whole structure fully welded in, and yeah, I grinded off the base for where the feet are going to be at, so it can be nice and flat for when we weld those on. I ultimately decided to leave this last 10 inches on there for now, as ultimately that where we may put our fuel tank and our battery and such. So it just kind of has another place where we can box in and sit, and nothing else is sitting within this area where the engine exhaust and such is going to be. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We could still cut it off later on, but we'll see. For now, we're good. I think the next step is going to be getting the feet on, so then I can start to measure where how long our motor mount stands are going to have to be. So let me grab our feet. Got them over here. So for our feet, all I did was go to Harbor Freight and pick up some 6-inch wheels. These are all 4 casters. That way we can slide it around nice. We'll have to grease these up. The reviews said the wheels were great. However, they can get dirt and stuff in the little bearings that are in here. So we'll keep them greased. But it should be real nice for just taking in, obviously it'll be on the other side, just welding them right there in the corner. Now these are definitely tall enough. I said in the last video it was about 6.5 to 6 3/4 inches, and these are right at about 7.5 tall when you include everything there. So plenty of space for our engine hoist to fit underneath it. So let's go ahead and get these welded on for now. I'm probably just going to put some nice thick tacks, not super anything fully welded in, just a nice thick tack. That way we can put some weight on it, but in case I want to change it later, or I may end up actually taking and recessing some bolts in there or nuts in there and cutting it so we can bolt it on, just in case one of these fails later on. I don't have to leave it. I can also go get a plate and make a plate with this bolt pattern in it, so that way I can bolt it just outside of the area. However, I do really want to keep everything just inside our 40 by so far 72-inch box that we're keeping everything, or that we have the engine run stand in. So let's get these tacked on, then we'll go ahead, we'll get the engine back over here, measure the height of where it is on the engine stand, and we'll start building the mounts for it. Yeah. All right, guys, so that is all 4 of our swivel casters put on. Now, like I said, get the engine back over here, do some measuring. I'm going to put the engine mounts that I bought, just a couple of universal ones, on the engine, and we'll measure from there. Cool, let's do it. All right, now let's go ahead, grab the just universal swap mounts that we have, some hardware, grab a couple of each of these, and yeah, it looks like it should go on this way. All right, my next step is to try to make sure that these are roughly as even as they possibly can be side to side. That way we can get a halfway decent measurement of length. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to go ahead and use the engine stand as kind of our center point. So we'll go ahead and measure out to the edge. All right, so we are exactly centered up right now. So I'm going to grab the pieces that we're going to use for tabs for our sliding mounts, and then we will go ahead and just take a measurement between those two, start building that piece. All right, so here's what we're going to use, and it is just a universal tab, a 3/8 hole in it. That way we can go ahead and put a bolt in there with our piece. And so this is just a 1-inch OD, 1/2 inch inside diameter, round tube. What we'll do is cut off a piece, and then we will slide that in between there. We'll bolt that into here, and then from there, measure from the other side, and we'll do the same thing for here. And we'll go ahead and put the two together. Really easy. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, guys, so there we go. We've got our 4 pieces that we're going to use for the motor mounts. Now, this is going to be our base motor mount on the actual piece. We'll slide that in there, and it will just, sit there. We will then go ahead and take and weld from there. And our other one, you can see it will go right in here in the motor mount on this side. So, get these mocked up. I'm going to clean these up a little bit more, and then, we'll go ahead and cut a piece to length. Once we know the length, we'll go ahead and measure everything up. Okay guys, there is our 2 sliding motor mounts. And so now get it back on the ground and it is set in place again, measured up. We'll measure to make sure our measurements are even again. From there, go ahead and make the base. Then we're close to being done with that part. We just need then to make a mount for the back, and we've got the engine set on it. Then it's really all the hard part, right? From there, all the accessories, routing it, fuel pumps, that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and get it back down and check it out. All right, there's 2 of them. Let's go ahead, bring the engine back over here, bolt it up. We'll start doing the mock-up for the rear part. All right, guys, so we are bolted, really just loose. I've just got it riding there, but I already see something that might potentially cause an issue with us, and that is how far out the legs go in correlation with some types of headers and such may. Now, I'm going to tie that mount and that mount together in the middle. So if we have to, we can go ahead and make just a pedestal straight up from there. If that ever becomes an issue, we can take those mounts, that mount, and bring it straight up and down. That way everything, has whatever room it needs to move over there. For now, we're going to keep going because we can always change that at the next stop. Let's go ahead and we're going to start working on the rear. Now, on the rear, I've got the bell housing off of one of my T56 transmissions. And so what we're going to do, so we're just going to bolt it up front side to the actual engine itself. And on the back side here, we're going to take and use these top 4 holes here and use this plate, and we will go ahead and bolt this plate across those 4 bolts. And on the back, we're going to take another piece of our tubing here, replace pretty much where that's at. Nice pull, we'll weld it to this bar here, and then we will weld in across that. So we're just going to weld in a little piece of angle on the top of this. That way we can bolt the angle to the plate. That way, in case we end up using different size bell housings and such on this, we can go ahead and make it sort of universal again. So go ahead, we're going to get these holes measured up, get this plate done. We'll get that cut, get that welded on, and then we'll go ahead and be pretty much ready to take the engine stand off and bolt it all together. Let's do it. All right, guys, so for this, like I said, we're going to go ahead and take this plate and line it up nice and straight, and we're just going to bolt it onto the back here, and then we'll kind of, make it as short as it needs to be so we can cut this piece off. We just have enough. And right here in the center is where we will bolt the arm to that we have coming up from the back. So let's go ahead. Good thing about this one is these holes here go all the way through. So what I'm going to do is pretty much line it up from the back side and use this piece itself sort of as the template. What I'm going to do is hope that the 2 dowel pin points are roughly the same spot and just line up from there. Then I'm going to take our punch, make sure that it's long enough, and it is. And we're just going to take our punch and go pop, 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 put some holes in it. or put some pumps in it. Make sure that we have a guide for where we're drilling. But I need to clean this up a bit. All right, so can't really tell, but our 4 holes are down there, and they line up real nicely back to where it was at. And these don't have to be perfect, obviously, as we're just going to make them slightly bigger than what they need to be, so that they just we can slide it around a little bit. But yeah, from there, let's go ahead and we're going to drill these holes out. We'll come back, bolt this to there, start working on the backside. Alright guys, so here we go. Boom, 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 boom. They'll line up. They're not perfect, but close enough for what we're doing here. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut this piece off. We're going to go ahead and smooth that out a little bit. We're going to do that, and then we'll have this ready to cut. Well, there we go. This is ready to bolt on there. We'll go ahead and get her all the way bolted up. We'll jump to the next step, making that stand for the back, finding out where we need to put the holes in here, and go ahead and bolt it up. Then we should be able to have a freestanding engine on the actual engine, then or on the run stand, and then from there, put in all the accessories and such on it, and fire it up. So yeah, move to the next step. All right, guys. So here we are. We've got the bell housing on. We got our plate that we made in place. Now, right here at our center line, we're going to go ahead and put the rear post in. So I think we're going to put it to about 20 inches high or so. And I've got some 1.5 inch angle and some 1.5 inch tube that we're going to go. So we'll end up roughly in this area, and that will give us plenty of space to bolt in here. So we're going to do 20 inches high. And right after I drop that, we'll probably do about a 6-inch wide base. That will work for this T56 bell housing and pretty much anything else that we should be able to find. So let's go ahead, get this cut, get the pole cut, and we'll get it welded up, and then we can take it fully off. Right now I've got the engine stand sitting back over there. I've got it off, but I've got it on our engine hoist right now, holding it in place and level. That way we can get it welded in. So get this piece welded up, and let's go ahead and take it completely off. Then we'll get to wiring it up, fueling system set up, and then we'll go ahead and actually run one on this. Alright guys, so we've moved the bell housing back towards the front of the rig for now, so we can kind of move it out of the way, so I can go ahead and set up and square up our rear tube here. So let's get it working. Alright guys, so back pole is welded on, the back support is. We've got our 2 holes drilled. Now we are going to go ahead and line the engine back up, center it back up, and then we will go ahead and mark 2 holes here and here on the little bell housing bracket that we made. Then we'll go ahead and drill those. Then we're pretty much done with this part. Let's get it done. Alright guys, so we are back, squared up. Let's level this way. We got a little bit of rake to the rear this way like most cars do. And now, we'll work it out. Alright, that's where we'll drill our holes. Alright guys, holes drilled, bolted on there again. Now, let's go ahead and pull off our engine hoist. That was helping support it. Slide that out of the way, and there we have it. That's the first part. Slides around real nicely. Let's give her a good old shake test. Yeah, she's not going anywhere. That's gorgeous. All right. So, this is the end of part 1 here. Part 2 will be fueling, battery, wiring, and building the radiator piece, because I don't have a radiator just yet, but we'll get to that in the next couple of days. For now, engine run stand part 1, getting it to actually have an engine on it. Done. See you in the next one.